$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES podcast with your host, Soulblazer.
Hello, everybody. This is Greg, and I'm joined by always by Joe.
Hello.
We are doing episode 146 of the Super NES podcast for your listening pleasure. This is Joe's pick this time, and Joe brought what I feel is a very safe, simple game to the podcast to cover, which I'm sure most people on here have probably played at some point in the past because of how popular it was. What game do you want us to look at this time, Joe?
I picked Kirby Superstar, mainly because I love the Kirby games.
Kirby games are very good, yes. I did not play the original Kirby on NES way back when, but I kind of came to the series late. More toward the Game Boy GBA era, but I understand that the new Kirby game on Switch is very good.
You're talking about Star Allies?
Yeah, yes.
It's very much like this game. It's super easy, and the ability to have three Kirby-esque characters by your side to fight with you just makes the game a breeze. I got it, and I beat it within the first week I had it, and it's honestly been sitting on my shelf since. It's kind of sad, but it was fun for what it was. I enjoyed the week-long game session I had with it, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Unless you have children and you want to introduce children to Kirby, then absolutely. But as far as us adults go, I don't recommend it.
Kind of a bit like this game, like spoilers, but
yeah,
we'll get into it.
Yeah.
This was the third Super NES Kirby game, I think. May have been the fourth. I actually did not count. I should have counted it, but
This come after or before Dreamland 3?
This was the last game in the Super NES, the Kirby series. That helps, Denny.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
This is actually one of the one of the very last Super NES games released. Period. Because the game was in development for so long.
Maybe that's why they made it the way they did.
But this came out. This game came out in a. This game came out in 1996 in both Japan and the U.S. So,
okay.
We probably should talk about Kirby a little bit. I kind of feel a bit silly with this because it's like, who doesn't know what, by this point,
right?
What Kirby is. But anyway, Kirby's basically. Why don't you try to describe him first, Joe? Because he actually can be a bit hard to describe.
I don't know. Do you describe him as a creature? Is he an alien? I don't know. He's a pink ball that can inhale enemies and acquire their abilities. He is obviously the hero of the story. Other than that, he's named after Nintendo's lawyer who won the battle for Donkey Kong. That's all I know.
Yep.
And he's a HAL creation, which former Nintendo president, poor guy, died of cancer. I can't remember his name right now, but he is a creation of Iwata. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah. So there we go.
This game was developed by HAL Laboratory. We've covered HAL in the past, so I won't spend a lot of time with them right now. They are still an independent company. They are still making games, but they've always been, but they've had a very close relationship with Nintendo for a long time. And the Kirby games are one example of that partnership. Kirby also has the unique ability from the enemies that he inhales to either be able to gain their powers, either to use as a weapon of some kind or to be able to transform into something. One of the games has it's one of my all-time favorite. One of my all-time favorite transformations of Kirby. I don't remember which game it's in. One of the games turns into a train. I love that one. That's so good.
In this one, I really like the fighting and the sword guy where you.
The sword guy's great.
You got Link's hat and he like shoots out swords and everything. So.
Yes. Yeah, the transformations of Kirby are very cute. So,
yeah, and they're also way over the top, which is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the whole game has a very cartoonish feel, which may put adults off at first, but most of the Kirby games are actually very good for adults to play too. Mm-hmm. Some of the games can be challenging, but they so this game was in development for a very long time. It was worked on actually for 3 years, which is much longer than what a usual Super NES era game was worked on. Mostly because the game went through multiple changes. For example, the original idea was to have kind of the original concept was to have a fighting game.
Okay.
Where Kirby would do more fighting elements with his transformations or whatnot.
Kind of like the new Kirby Fighters series that they have on the Switch. Gotcha.
Yep. And then, then when Rare released Donkey Kong Country in 1994, that also caused the game development to change slightly because they were inspired by that. They wanted to use CG graphics. So they scrapped a lot of the artwork and started over again. They also the mini game idea kind of came out kind of late. Slowly expand the number of mini games the game has, and whatnot. What the game is called depends upon where in the world that you live in. The game originally came out in Japan in March of 1996, where it's called Kirby of the Stars Super Deluxe. It came out here in North America in September of 96, just 3 months before the N64 came out, by the way. So, like I said, very late Super NES release. Not the last Super NES game, but one of the last ones. Whereas, of course, we know it over here as Kirby Superstar. And then eventually the game came out in Europe in January 1997 as Kirby's Fun Pack. So, like I said, whereabouts the world that you live in depends upon how the game actually was developed. The game has been ported several times since then. Both the Wii and the Wii U had it available on their virtual consoles. The game also got a remake called Kirby Superstar Ultra for the DS in 2008. Have you played this version, Joe?
I actually have. I did not know that it was actually a remake of this one until I got into playing this game. Then I was like, oh, I've played this before.
You want to talk about the differences? Differences here because I never played it.
Too many differences. I think there's an extra 3 or 4 mini games in it, and they incorporate obviously the touch screen for some of the mini games. Other than that, I mean, it's basically the same game, slightly new coat of paint. I think the smaller aspect ratio makes it look crisper than it actually is. You know what I mean?
Right. They also added they also added 2 new mini games. And also the original game has also been ported a couple more times since then. The game was included on the Super NES Mini, which came out several years ago. Good choice, I think, because to be honest, mini games do allow multiplayer. So this is definitely a very good party style game. So definitely a good pick to have on there. And the game's also available on the Switch online service. So if you want to play the original game, you can the Switch is probably the easiest way to get it. The remake's available, like I said, on the DS. So that's probably that's probably not too hard to find. So this game has, the box says 8, and most of the materials say 8. There's actually really 7. There's because 8 games is more like supplemental.
Right.
Some of the games are not available at first, which I kind of hate. But it's like, yeah, it is what it is. But
Right.
You unlock those by playing others.
And it makes sense after you unlock them.
Right. So let's talk about each game here briefly. Here, you start off with Spring Breeze, which is really just a remake, of the very first Kirby game, Kirby's Dream Land.
Yeah, with shorter levels.
Right. So I had a lot of fun with this one. It was very nice to see like how the original game like would have looked like, better graphics, better graphics like whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, it is bastardized, yes, but it's still fun for what it is. So I'm probably going to start with, just because you beat this and you got to hand over anything else the game has to offer.
Right.
So
right.
Then you have Dynablade, which is a giant bird, which is like so this one has 4 levels that you have to clear before facing off against the blade. There's also 2 secret areas and mini boss. Reminds me of Spring Breeze a little bit. Also kind of reminds me like a bit about like this Super Mario Bros. 3, where you have to go around the map. It's like the map and whatnot.
Right.
So, what do you think about this one, Joe?
I thought it was alright. Like you said, it's very much like Spring Breeze. I felt this one had a little bit of a difficulty spike based on the different enemies that appear. But as you'll see, a theme with all these, quote-unquote mini games, when you have the ability to spawn out your second player, whether that's a second player or the AI controlling it, it makes the game a lot easier. I actually tried to go through and not spawn the second player, but occasionally it would happen because, it's like a simple down and A press on the controller and whoop, there you go, you get your second player. So,
right. Okay, so next up you have next up you have the very appropriately named gourmet race, which is like it's a racing game where you have to eat food. So it works.
King Dedede would keep kicking my ass in this. I've tried numerous times to beat him.
It's hard. Yeah, this is actually this is to me at least, this is the hardest mini game like in the pack. I'm not sure I'm not sure if you had one harder than this, Joe, but for me this was the hardest.
No, this was definitely the hardest. I mean, the two other like the real mini games of this, Mega Ton Punch and Samurai Kirby, I think were harder, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
This one, the level layout is what screws you, because you're like going up and down and whatever else, and you're trying to make those moves, and King Dedede is just flying past you.
Right. It's 3 levels, various length. Whoever earns the most points by the end wins. You can choose to race against the king, or you can also race against the ghost, which is your player's. Which is like your best. Well, it's basically a ghost who mimics your best race in that game. Period.
Right.
So you're so basically so it's really like if you beat him, then you get. Then you beat yourself because you got the best time on it.
Right.
So, which is fun. I mean, that definitely is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, simple game, but fun for what it is. So, the Great Cave Offensive. This one's interesting. It's kind of the term wasn't used back then, but I'd used it. I mean, the term wasn't around back then, but I'd use the term like Metrovania to describe this. You have to explore a cave for treasure. The 60 treasure chests hidden across 4 different areas. A lot of these treasures are taken from other properties of Nintendo. For example, you have the Triforce from Zelda, Captain Falcon's helmet from F-Zero, Mr. Saturn from Earthbound, etc., etc. So that's pretty cool. Others reference, others are more obscure references. For example, one of the items is called a Orchiricum, which is actually a which is actually a fictional metal. Talked about like the writing of like Plato and whatnot. It's supposed to be very, very valuable, and therefore because it's valuable, it's turned up in other like role playing games over the years. So that's a pretty deep cut.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, this was a surprise. You know, I actually had a lot of fun with this one. In some ways it's simple, yes, but it's very, it's very different, very unique. I'd probably argue this is the most like unique mini game here.
Yeah, I had fun with it, but the thing is, I felt it was really pointless. Like, getting all the treasures did nothing for you. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true, yeah.
I figure you get something out of it by 100%ing it, and like, I was smart and looked on YouTube before I fully went all out and tried to 100% it. I got a good portion of them on the first run, but I was like, I'm going to do a quick search on YouTube and see, what do I get for 100%. And when I saw it was nothing, I was like, okay, I'm not even going to bother.
You're not wrong in thinking that. There are some secrets, and hidden items in this game, which we'll have to cover later on. Mm-hmm. So, you're not wrong for thinking that. Definitely fun. This mini game I wouldn't mind seeing fleshed out like a full scale like Kirby game actually.
Yeah.
Because since Metroidvania games are very popular these days, why not?
Yep.
So
I agree.
So another interesting mode is another interesting game mode is the Revenge of Meta Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Who Meta Knight is trying to take over Dreamland, and basically end the lazy lifestyle everybody has and force them to work. Which is a very interesting concept in and of its own right.
Right.
We probably could dedicate a whole podcast just talking about that concept, but and he's a battleship to do this with.
Right.
You have a time limit each level. You have to finish a time or you lose a life. You take you cause damage to the battleship every time you finish the level successfully.
Yes.
And you also have, and this also has boss fights. It's actually like pretty like story heavy in this one. So the combination of the challenge, the boss fights, and the story driven mode really made this one like fun. I probably had this is probably my second favorite mode in the game. Again, like all of these, it's pretty short, but for what but what here it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this one, like overall, Joe?
I thought it was a really cool concept. I like the idea of having a timer. I like the idea that basically it's one long boss battle. So it's like every time you complete the level, you're giving damage to the airship or battleship, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yep.
So it felt like it was just one really long boss battle with a bunch of platforming in between. And
right.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. There's really the only mini game I can really complain about on this collection, if you want to call it, is honestly the racing game. That's the only one that I absolutely did not enjoy. Other than that, everything else was fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually had fun with all of them, but I kind of agree with you. The racing game is definitely is the most challenging. I mean, I'm glad it's here.
Right.
This is definitely a precursor to Kirby being available as a playable character like the Mario Kart games.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're almost done here. So, Milky Way Wishes is up next. This is actually the largest one in the game, I think.
Yeah. This is the boss rush, right?
Yes.
This was probably the most fun I had, just going after each and every boss. That was fun.
Yeah, this one's a little bit harder, harder to describe.
Right.
Kirby has to basically travel across 9 planets and restore the giant wish-granting comet clock Nova. Again, silly, but the whole Kirby game's a sort of plot, so that's par for the course.
Exactly.
What makes this one so challenging is the fact that Kirby in this one cannot copy abilities. Instead, he collects what's called Copy Essences Deluxes.
Yes.
Once you have those, they allow you to be able to select a copy ability from a list and keep it permanently.
Yes.
So, kind of like, it's, definitely, definitely an interesting concept here.
It basically turned Kirby into Mega Man.
Right. The scrolling shooting levels are in this one are also like you also like very like unique and interesting. So yeah, a lot of fun. This is not the boss rush one, Joe. That's that's actually the arena, which you'll get into next.
Yes, you're right.
Right. Yeah. This
My
is
bad.
This is kind of like the gradius kind of like side scrolling shooter one.
There we go.
So,
Yeah.
But again, I certainly admire the programmers in this one, like the programmers in this one, like how creative that they were. They definitely tried to branch Kirby out in different directions.
Yeah, definitely.
These mini games. Maybe not all of them worked, but I definitely like admire them for doing so. The arena, as I mentioned before, that's up next. That's the boss attack mode. You only have one life. However, you do have a free selection of power-ups to use.
Yeah.
So you can also replenish your health 5 times total during this, and you have 2 power-ups at random given to you. If you complete this, you unlock the sound mode in the game.
Yeah.
So this is fun. This is a definitely, these bosses are just as difficult or as easy as they were originally. So if you had a certain boss you struggled with before in the past, you're gonna do so again.
Right.
This is fun. Sure. You have anything else you want to say about this one, Joe?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean the boss rush is what it is. You know what I mean? It's fun to be able to go through and fight all the different bosses and whatnot. I mean, in general, this game's pretty good for what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Most
I agree.
of the time when I see something that is described as mini games, it's one of those like, really? Is this what we're doing here? Like, did I just waste $40? Probably at this time it was probably $70 for the Super Nintendo cart, because this had a special FX chip in it.
Yes, it did. Yep.
So, which, by the way, gave us a fantastic intro that I can't believe you didn't mention.
Yes.
The intro on this game is incredible. I could watch that over and over again. Yeah, I mean, the controls are simple, and when I died in the game, I honestly felt like it was my fault. It wasn't the game or poor design. So. Oh, and I noticed some slowdown when things got really hectic on screen.
Yeah, that's kind of a surprise to see that. Because
Yeah.
it's like, by this point, I guess just because of how sophisticated this game is, but
Yeah.
it really had to be like pushing the hardware big time.
Right.
So those are the seven main games as I mentioned before. They're technically Nintendo considers to have 8, only because the 2 mini games are kind of lumped together as one.
Right.
Those mini games are Samurai Kirby, which is a timing game very reminiscent to a mini game from Kirby's Adventure.
Yep.
And Megaton Punch. We have to like punch a planet to make a bigger crack show up. Than your opponent. So, so I guess Nintendo, the counting's kind of weird. I guess they just decided just to lump those 2 mini games together like it's like one game.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Megaton Punch was fun enough.
Yeah.
It's all it's all timing as far as getting the reticles to line up and then getting the medallion or pendulum to stop where you need it to. But Samurai Kirby, I could not get past Meta Knight at all.
Yeah.
It was like your reflexes have to be like literally see it, click it. So you have to anticipate it more than anything else. That was one of the things I put in parentheses with both of these mini games. They both showed me how old I am and how slow my reflexes are now. Because as a kid, I could definitely probably keep up, but it's like I'd see the fan, I'd hit the button, and then everything was fine until I got to that 4th fight or 5th fight with Meta Knight, and then I don't know, I couldn't get it within the 11 seconds or 11 milliseconds or whatever it was. So
yeah, I hear you. This game's very good for doing that.
Megaton Punch was just all patience. You have to be patient to wait for things to line up. But
Right.
Samurai Kirby was still fun. It's just, it was disappointing
Right.
that Meta Knight was the roadblock.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we already mentioned the graphics like a little bit. There is an FX chip like in this game, which makes it some very nice, sophisticated graphics. Like Donkey Kong Country-esque in some areas.
Yeah, this is a very pretty game.
Yeah, it still looks like Kirby.
Yep.
It definitely has the feel of a Kirby game with it. Just some very, just some very, very, just some like very like nice graphics. The nice graphics overall, very sophisticated. Probably, like I said, pushing the hardware to its limit, which makes me slow down, which is kind of a bit surprising to see on a game this late. But the music also was excellent in this game. Many of these tracks have been like reused in other games later on. For example, like some tracks have shown up in later Kirby games. Some of them have been remixed for Super Smash Bros. Games. Et cetera. So yeah, very good music. I like this game.
Yeah, I put in parentheses with my notes. Love the soundtrack. So
yeah, the Kirby games usually have very good music anyway.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Meta Knight's battleship, the Halberd, has shown up also like on the games. So some of the stages have also been remixed and refurbished for later games in the series. So a lot of stuff in this game has been carried over to other other games. So you already mentioned controls, Joe. The controls of this game handle fine, typical of a Kirby game.
Smooth as butter.
Yep. Nintendo's always had excellent platform mechanics in their games. Doesn't matter if it's like Mario or Zelda or Metroid or whatever. They're always excellent.
Absolutely.
And the Kirby games are no exception. So, so if you die, it's your own fault.
Yeah.
You cannot blame the controls of the game one bit in this one.
Right.
But so the game. So because Kirby was already popular, and because the game was already popular, and because the game offered a lot on one cart, 8 games in one, et cetera. The game sold very well, both Japan and the States. Reviews across the board were almost all positive. Game rankings, even to this day, still gives it an 86%. So, the only knock that the reviewers had, which I fully agree with, and we've already talked about a little bit, is that most of the games are very easy.
Yeah.
So the replay value of this game in single player mode at least is very limited. I mean, adults will enjoy it. Kids will enjoy it more. Adults will get to the point where they feel like they've actually done everything in the game.
Yep.
What saves the game is multiplayer. Multiplayer mode's great.
Yes.
We did not have a chance to play multiplayer, unfortunately, because both of us have a lot of stuff going on in our lives, right now. But I have played this game multiplayer before in the past, and it's very good. Multiplayer gives you the ability to keep this game going for a long time.
Yeah.
So, also, some of the reviewers mentioned that the level design was not as fancy or as intricate as previous Kirby games, which I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. But then again, that's not what we're going for here.
Right.
They wanted a collection of mini games.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So, I don't know. That's an invalid claim, in my opinion.
Right. But it's not like a full. If this was like a regular Kirby game and levels in level designs with this, I'd agree, but
right. On my notes, I put it was fun, but I'd rather play Dreamland 3. That's my personal preference, but it's not fair to compare the two. The two are apples and oranges.
Exactly. And like I said, I agree with you fully. Single player is fun for a while, but multiplayer is where this game really shines.
Yes.
And you can still have fun. And you can still have fun. Fun in this game, in multiplayer mode, even today. So, I may have missed it, Joe. What was your all-time favorite minigame in this?
I really liked was it the first one where you're kind of going through like the modified version of
Spring
Dreamland.
Breeze.
Yeah, Spring Breeze, and then the boss rush. I thoroughly enjoyed going through the boss rush mode.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Those were by far my two favorites. I mean, like I said, I spent some time with Megaton Punch, but
Right.
it wasn't as fun as the other ones. So
Yeah. Nope, I definitely agree. So before we move on here, anything else you want to say about this game? That's kind of like, kind of getting close to final thoughts.
no, I pretty much covered everything that I had written down.
Okay.
I think I already gave away my final thoughts.
So, did you play this back when it came out, or did you come onto it like later on?
No, I didn't discover this until actually I got the SNES Classic.
Okay, all right, yeah.
It's one of those, I'd seen it before, and like I said, I had the DS game, but I didn't know that the DS game was basically a remake of this game. So,
Okay, all right.
it was one of those where like I'd played the DS game and then I powered this up last week and started playing it and was like, wait, I was like, this all feels very familiar, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then, of course, a quick Google search showed me the way, and I went, oh, okay. That makes sense.
Right. So anyway, I did mention there was some hidden things in this game to find.
Yes, I would like to hear these because I didn't find anything other than obviously the sound option.
Right. Yep. So most of those. So most of the hidden stuff is like what I mentioned before. You have to beat certain stages to unlock other stages. Like in this game. So one of the Easter eggs is that if you, like some of the mini games, if you use the stone ability enough, enough times, you may turn into a character from another Nintendo game, Samus.
Oh, nice.
Or you can also turn into a golden statue of Mario. In Megaton Punch, if you look in the background, carefully enough, you notice like Mario, Luigi, and playing a few other characters.
Yes.
Characters that look something like Mario games there. In Spring Breeze, speaking about Mario, Luigi, and others, during the final fight against King Aditi at the end, you'll see them, off to the side of the ring there. So, along with like a, the camera was pretty cool.
Nice.
Milky Way Wishes. So Milky Way Wishes does have a secret defined on it, a secret level.
Oh.
If you move Kirby to the green star between Cavis and Sky High, and then plug it into the level, you'll find the copy ability. Complete the level successfully, and you unlock a secret level.
Oh, okay.
So, so we already mentioned the sound test, how to unlock that. So, this game sold very well. A lot of copies out there in existence, as I mentioned before. This game's very easy to find on eBay. 27 copies currently listed. 84 copies like recently sold. However, like most Nintendo published games, the game's how its value has how its value very well.
Yeah.
You'll pay more for this game than you might expect. Because that popularity, and also because Nintendo games always, I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but Nintendo games always seem to hold their value very, very well.
Very true.
So, carts only can range anywhere from like $31 to $67. CIB can run anywhere from $60 to $180, depending upon like condition and completeness. Wow. So, yeah, not crazy, but the game certainly just holds value very well. So
yeah, I like the game, but not that much.
Yeah. If you don't care about a physical copy of the game, the Switch version is probably the you buying the game in the Switch store is probably the best way to go. Or you can always get the remake on the DS. So or if you want to, Nintendo's still selling the I checked before the podcast. Nintendo's still selling the refurbished minis, classic editions on the website. So And the game's included in that as well, also.
Yep.
So yeah, I did not play this game until several years ago. It's a fun game. Like for what it is, I think they succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very fun platforming party game featuring one of the most, definitely featuring one of the arguably cutest characters, like in all like video games.
Agreed.
Agreed. So single player as mentioned before is limited, but multiplayer the game's still a lot of, multiplayer mode the game's still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, definitely worth checking out like if you're a Kirby fan. So, it's kind of like with that Kirby golf game that George and I covered. You covered like a ways back. Even if you're not a golf fan, Kirby being the game is definitely enough to make the game fun. So, and this is kind of the same way here. So, I'm not sure I have anything else to say about this. Shorter episode than usual, so sorry about that, folks. But like I said, it's a collection of mini games. How much can you say about them?
Exactly.
So, definitely play this if you not play. If you missed this for some reason, play it. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
So anyway, if you want to reach us, we're available on Facebook. We have a couple groups on there, or you can also send me an email directly if you want to. That email address is the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for other games, etc. Joe, how can they reach you?
I can be found on Facebook, Joe Copel. You can just search it, and then also on Twitter at JOESUX30.
Okay, cool. So next time we're going to be looking at one of my favorite games in the system. I know Joe's probably going to disagree with me on this, but I majored in history, and I've always been a big fan of the Koei games because of how sophisticated and deep that they are.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be covering one of the more obscure, I think, Koei games next time. A game based upon the American Revolution, called Liberty or Death. The American Revolution does not have a lot of games made on it, period, anyway. So we're gonna get into that during the podcast, I think. But they, I'm definitely one of my favorite Koei games, like where it covers. So, So going from a very lighthearted platform game to a more serious simulation game.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out.
This should be interesting.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, as always, we thank you for being on the podcast with us. Listening, taking time listening to the podcast and everything.
Absolutely.
So, we will be back with you again shortly, hopefully. And Kirby has no right being as cute as he is.
So true.
But even adults can say so.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
But all right, everybody. Thanks again for listening as always, and take care. Catch you again soon.
Have a good one, guys.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Deep of power.